Are you looking to rent an apartment or a home in Chicago? I'm real estate broker Scott Curcio, and in this video, I'm going to show you a step-by-step guide for how to prepare to rent successfully here in our town. Now, before I go any further, I've got all of this written out in a real handy PDF file, a nice little presentation for you. So if you're watching this going, Scott, I would like a copy of that, like this, comment, share, send me a direct message. You can also contact me through my website and we'll get that over to you. It is going to summarize a lot of these pieces of information that I'm going to give you because I'm going to send you off here today with a lot and it might be a little overwhelming. And I think you'll like having it in writing so you can cross-check. All right, first, you got to get yourself ready for what's to come. In Chicago, an application process is going to have a couple different components. A landlord's going to want to see your employment verification. That's going to usually be your last 2 pay stubs. If you're someone that's self-employed, they're going to want to see a year-to-date profit and loss statement for your business and probably also your tax returns from the last 2 years. Get that together now. Something else you should have ready is the correct information to verify your employment. A lot of times, especially if you work for a big company, they might use a third party like a work number or something like that. And it can be really difficult to reach those people. So find out who is the person that's going to be able to pick up the phone and say, yes, Johnny works here and this is his salary and he's been working here for this long. So save the people on the landlord side the work of having to do that. It'll go really far, especially if you're in a competitive bidding situation. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So you want to get that. You also want to make sure that you have a letter of recommendation or at least the contact information for your current landlord. And I even get the one before that. Some people will want your current and your previous landlord to call them and verify that you rented, verify your rent amount, verify that you weren't a problem tenant. So get all that stuff ready. Also, and this is thinking ahead a little bit, when you do sign a lease, any landlord's going to require you to have renter's insurance. So go ahead and line up that policy, or at least the person you're going to use, whether it's Geico or State Farm or Liberty Mutual or whatever you. Line that up now so it's ready to go. So you can walk in and say, here you go, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, here's all of my stuff. I'm ready to go. You've just shown that you are the perfect tenant that they are going to want for their property, right? Lastly, and we'll call this 1A. Go ahead and pull yourself a free credit report. Credit Karma, what have you, just see where you stand right now. And if you have any blips on your credit, let's say you had a bankruptcy or a foreclosure or an eviction, even worse, you want to get ahead and control the narrative with that landlord. You need to explain what were the situations there and how you moved past it. You don't want them to find that out on your report and then ding your application and maybe move you down the list, right? Next, what's it going to cost you to rent a property here? Well, first and foremost, keep in mind that most landlords like to see a maximum of 40% of your gross monthly income going to your rent. So if you were making $5,000 a month, the max you should be spending on rent is $2,000, right? Keep that in mind. Now, you may still be in a competitive situation where somebody else may make double you looking at the same rent. So you may have to look at some other ways to maybe bridge that gap. But let's talk about the expenses. So anytime you're going to sign a lease, first month's rent is going to be due. So you're going to have that handy. You're also going to have any building move-in fees. And that's going to differ a little bit based upon what kind of property you're renting, right? You might not have that at all if it's a single family home. And then if it's a condo building, you might have one set of fees. If you're renting in one of these kind of luxury all apartment buildings, they might not have too much of a move-in fee for you because they've kind of baked it into some of the other costs. So you're going to want to ask those questions up front on any property. Any good landlord or landlord representative is going to have that information at their fingertips, right? But you should be ready to spend a couple $100s each for moving in, moving out, plus usually anywhere from $300 to $500 for a refundable damage deposit. That's usually if you're in an elevator building because they want to make sure that your movers or you don't damage any of the walls or the hallways or what have you when you're moving in and out. Also keep in mind that you may need to have a specific window of time to book a move. A lot of people forget that. You can't necessarily apply for a lease on Monday and then you're moving in on Tuesday. That never happens. It usually needs a couple days to get the application. And then if you're in a building where you have to reserve an elevator, if the slot you want's already gone, you're going to pick another time. So keep that in mind. The moral of this story is planning, right? That's why I'm doing this video for you guys today. It's planning, plan ahead, plan as much as you can so that you have the easiest time moving into our city. Lastly on that too, or I should say lastly, one other thing to add is if you've got a pet A lot of times landlord will charge an extra fee per month or an extra annual fee to register that pet. And if you're going to need parking, sometimes you might have extra fees alongside that as well. So keep in mind on that. And then your credit check is usually going to run anywhere from $50 to $100 per person, and that is always usually non-refundable. So be mindful of that. The last tip I'm going to give you guys today is the difference between security deposit and move-in fee in lieu of security deposit. A big issue or hot button topic in Chicago. It's something the landlord's going to dictate. Are they going to take a security deposit, which is customarily 1 month's rent, or are they going to ask you for a non-refundable move-in fee in lieu of a security deposit? There's pros and cons to both. That move-in fee is usually going to be substantially less than the security deposit, but you don't get it back. The security deposit is going to be more, but you get it back less, plus any interest, less any damage that you caused when you move out. So it's not going to be up to you. It's going to be up to the landlord. Just something to know as you come here. So I hope that's helpful. I threw a lot of information at you guys, but I want you to be the easiest time renting a property in our great city. So if you'd like a copy of this report, which outlines all the information I just gave you and a little bit more, comment below, send me a direct message, find me on my website, send me a text message, heck, send me a carrier pigeon if they still exist. We'll get you that report. I'm real estate broker Scott Curcio, and we look forward to welcoming you to our town.